As the college football season gets closer and closer, media days are starting for certain conferences, and we're starting to get a read on where people project teams to finish. While a lot of people are talking about who will be at the top, today I'm going to talk about who I think will be at the bottom. We're going to go through all 9 conferences, and I'm going to predict who will be the team that finishes in last place in each and every one of them. I feel bad for a lot of these schools, but somebody does have to finish in last. But before we can talk about all that, if you're a big fan of college football, be sure to subscribe to the channel, leave a like if you support today's video, and let me know what player, team, topic, or situation I can cover next. Now let's go ahead and get started and talk about who I think will finish last in each and every conference for 2025. Alright, so we're going to first start out with the Mountain West, as we're going to talk about who I think will finish in last, the New Mexico Lobos. New Mexico ended up having an interesting season last year, as with Bronco Mendenhall as the guy in charge, they actually were decent. They have one of the best offenses in all of college football, led by their star quarterback Devon Dampier. He is now headed off to Utah, along with the offensive coordinator and a couple other key players. Lobos will have a lot of work to do for next season, but they do have a good coach in Jason Eck. He's coming over to New Mexico by way of Idaho after he turned around the struggling Vandals program and made them pretty competitive in the FCS. Still though, it is going to be year 1 for New Mexico, and it's not like they had a good season last year, or ever very good historically, so there's good reason to think they'll finish in last. Their first game starts out on the road against Michigan, and they also have a couple of other interesting games, like a road matchup with UCLA, a road matchup with Boise State, a road matchup with San Jose State, and a road matchup with Air Force. Honestly, looking at their schedule, the only game I'd probably pick them to win for sure is Idaho State, and then a game against New Mexico State is probably a toss-up, and maybe they can be competitive against Nevada or Air Force, but who knows. Either way, I picked the Lobos to finish dead last in the Mountain West, but they do have a future with Jason Eck there, and he's one of my favorite young coaches. Going over to the SEC, one of the hardest schools to win at is Mississippi State. Usually, Vandy is projected to finish last, but this year, I'm going to pick the Bulldogs. Unfortunately, it has been tough sledding for them, as they were not very good last year, and are trying to get rebuilt in year 2 under Jeff Lebby. It's not all disastrous for Mississippi State, as they actually have a pretty decent quarterback room, as they have Blake Shapen coming back, they got former 5-star quarterback Luke Krummenhoek, and top 100 freshman Kamario Taylor. Unfortunately though, they are just a couple of years away, as while they grabbed 34 transfers, I just don't expect Mississippi State to be all that competitive this season. They honestly have a pretty brutal schedule, as outside of crummy games against Southern Miss, Alcorn State, and Northern Illinois, it'll be tough. They play a lot of the top teams in the SEC, and they also grab Arizona State out of the Big 12, so at best, I think they maybe win 4 games, and at worst, they probably win 3. Let's just hope they don't get upset by Southern Miss in week 1, but like New Mexico, I do think Jeff Lebby will build something there, but it's just going to take some time. Going over to our third conference, the Sun Belt, I'm going to pick the UL Monroe Warhawks to finish dead last. Sure, the team won 5 games last year, but they lost a lot of their best players. Their freshman phenom Ahmad Hardy ended up transferring over to Mizzou, and this season things don't get that much easier. While they do return their starting quarterback in Aiden Armenta, there's just a lot of pieces missing here. Their only guaranteed win in my opinion is against St. Francis, Pennsylvania, and their schedule is also pretty difficult. They have to play Texas State, Louisiana, Northwestern, Coastal Carolina, and Alabama on the road, and I'm not going to pretend to know the strengths and weaknesses or try to make projections on how these Sun Belt games will go, but they probably win 3 or 4 games max, and at this point, I picked them to finish last. I could be dead wrong though, and if you're a Sun Belt enthusiast, is there a team that's worse? Okay, so for our 4th conference, we're going to talk about the MAC. I'm going to make my first controversial pick of the day, and I'm actually going to pick UMass to finish dead last in the conference. I know many of you guys are probably thinking that Kent State should take that title, as they are so dysfunctional that you couldn't imagine them winning a game, but for some reason, I've got a theory here. UMass will be joining a conference for the first time in a while, as they are an independent and are now in the MAC. They have a new head coach, are going into a new conference, and it's not like they've been any good either. They're literally one of the worst teams in all of college football, and combining all that, I think it'll be the perfect storm for them to be the worst team in the conference. They have to play 2 road games against Iowa and Mizzou, and then the best part is they actually have to go on the road and play against Kent State. I think this will be a battle of the 2 worst teams in the conference, and just purely off gut instinct, I think Kent State's going to pull it off. Because of that, that would make UMass the worst team in the conference, and I think maybe at best they win 1 or 2 games. They probably beat Bryant, but I don't know if they get another one. One of the news stories in college football is that Delaware is finally an FBS program, but that's about where the good news starts. They lost their best running back ever in Marcus Yarns to the NFL, and now Delaware will join the FBS and also join Conference USA. While media pundits claim they have a strong defense and an explosive offense, making the transition to the FBS is not as easy as it sounds. Most teams are absolutely terrible in their first year after the transition, and after losing a couple of key players and having to face a new level of competition, I just don't think Delaware is going to be any good. That is absolutely nothing against them, as long-term I think they could be pretty decent in Conference USA, but for now, there's just no reason to expect them to be good. They have road matchups against Wake Forest and Colorado, which will be interesting. They play a good UConn team, and their only guaranteed win in my eyes will probably come against Delaware State. They also luckily get to play against Florida International, who's also one of the worst teams in college football, but I don't see a lot of guaranteed wins on the schedule, and for now, I think in their first year, they probably finish last in Conference USA. I know Rutgers fans are not going to like to hear it, but I have the Scarlet Knights finishing dead last in the Big Ten this fall. They did not have a great quarterback last year in Athan Kaliakmanis, and they also lost their best running back in a long time in Kyle Monangai. Sure, they return a couple of offensive linemen and receivers, but I don't exactly have a ton of faith in Rutgers this year. They will have a Swiss cheese non-conference schedule, as they'll play against Ohio, Miami of Ohio, and Norfolk State, but the Big Ten schedule is ruthless for them. They have to play both Penn State and Ohio State, they get Oregon, they have to travel to Washington, they play Illinois, and they get Iowa. The most winnable game on their schedule is probably a road matchup against Purdue, or maybe at home against Maryland, but I expect Rutgers to win 1 or 2 Big Ten games, and probably finish with 4 wins. That's just my personal take. Maybe there's something I'm missing here, but I just don't have a lot of faith in them. Some could maybe argue that Purdue should be on this list, but I think the Boilermakers have a better shot of winning more conference games than the Scarlet Knights do. Typically, the most entertaining Group of 5 conference is the AAC, or better known as the American Athletic Conference, as they've had some really good squads and some really good players recently, but the team I project to finish at the bottom is going to be the Temple Owls. Unfortunately, after stringing together a couple of really good coaching hires about 15 years ago, Temple has fallen on dangerously hard times. Some people have even talked about Temple shutting down their football program, as they just have not been able to get much going, and they've never been able to get a whole lot of momentum. Whenever they get a good coach, they end up losing him. The Stan Drayton hire ended up being disastrous for the Owls the last couple of years, but they finally brought in a guy who can maybe give them a chance at winning in Casey Keeler. He will come to Philly by way of Sam Houston State, and in a couple of years he might have Temple football rolling again, but for now, I do not see that. They'll end up facing off with one of the worst teams in college football in UMass, and that will say a lot. They also play Howard in week 2, and those are by far their best chances at winning any football game. A late October game against Charlotte is also worth circling, but other than that, I don't know if Temple wins more than 2 football games this year. It'd be absolutely ridiculous if they were to upset Oklahoma or Georgia Tech or something crazy like that, but there's just no way that's going to happen, and for now, I think Temple's at the bottom of the American. In the ACC, a lot of the teams sort of feel the same, and while many would probably have Cal and Virginia near the bottom of the conference, the worst team without a doubt is going to be the Stanford Cardinal. It feels like a long time ago when guys like Bryce Love and Christian McCaffrey were playing for them, but luckily they have one of their old guys back in Andrew Luck, this time as a general manager, and he decided to clean house. Troy Taylor got shown the door this past spring, and they just have a lot of rebuilding and reloading to do, and they need to figure out if they want to invest in football or not. Stanford is very concerned about their academic stuff and doesn't put as much money into football, but they have a couple of good guys, especially big-time quarterback recruit Elijah Brown, but Frank Reich has not had a ton of time yet, and the cupboard is honestly just bare. The schedule is honestly pretty difficult too, as they have road matchups against Hawaii and BYU in the non-con, and then also get San Jose State, who's supposed to be near the top. Honestly, I don't know if they win more than 2 games, and I think there's actually a legit chance that Hawaii or San Jose State could beat them, and I would not favor them in a single ACC game, but I guess we'll kind of find out pretty quickly as they play Boston College and Virginia for their first 2 conference games, who are projected to be near the bottom. We'll have to wait and see, but I think Stanford is without a doubt the worst ACC team this year. And the final conference we need to talk about is the Big 12, as this is one of the deepest conferences, as they all sort of feel the same. I will say, though, there are 3 teams probably in that lower tier, and that, in my opinion, includes UCF, West Virginia, and Oklahoma State, as I do think Cincinnati will be better next year, but if I had to pick one, I'm going to say UCF. Sure, Scott Frost has won plenty of football games while he's been down in Orlando, but this year it's a transition for them. They have a whole new coaching staff, they have to find a new quarterback, and they lost their best player last year in RJ Harvey. I don't necessarily think they're going to be absolutely horrible, but in a Big 12 that in my opinion is pretty loaded this year, I just don't see them getting a whole lot of wins. They have quite the interesting non-conference schedule as they play North Carolina A&T, Jacksonville State, and North Carolina. And the Gamecocks are one of the better group of 5 teams, and the Tar Heels are definitely going to be an intriguing team. They start out Big 12 play with a road game against Kansas State, and I think that'll say a lot about how good this team is. I don't see a lot of wins on the schedule, as I think their best bet is probably home against West Virginia or home against Houston, but I don't necessarily see them winning a whole lot of games here. On paper right now, I would not favor them in a single Big 12 matchup. That's just my personal take, but maybe they'll surprise us. Maybe Coach Frost will have the Knights ready to go in year 1, and they surprise again. I could be dead wrong, and sorry if I'm offending any UCF fans, but I do pick you guys to finish last. So yeah, to quickly wrap up again, from the American, I had Temple, from the ACC, I had Stanford, from the Big 12, I had UCF, the Big 10, I had Rutgers, Conference USA, I had Delaware, the MAC, I had UMass, the Mountain West, I had New Mexico, the SEC, I had Mississippi State, and in the Sun Belt, I had UL Monroe. What do you guys think? What did I get right and wrong? Who do you think is going to be the worst team in each conference? And what video should I do next? Be sure to let me know down below. Leave a like if you want to support today's video, subscribe if you're new, and check out some of the videos on the end screen. Hope to see you guys again soon, but until next time, peace.